Hi everyone, my name's Lillie, and today I'm going to be presenting on the Jewish ghettos in Italy. There are three main ghettos in Venice, Rome, and Florence, and I'm interested in this topic because I studied abroad in Italy, and I lived in Florence for 6 months, and during that time was able to visit these places in person and learn about the history in person. So the first Jewish ghetto established in Europe is the Venetian Ghetto, which was created in 1516 by the Venetian Republic as a means to control the Jewish population in the city. This area was located in the Foundry District, and the word ghetto actually comes from the Italian word ghetto, which means foundry. This area was surrounded by high walls and gates that were locked at night and only allowed the Jewish community to interact with the rest of the city during the day. However, the people within the walls were able to create a thriving community amongst themselves. They built synagogues, businesses, and schools, and remained a pretty stable community until the walls were taken down. Rome holds the highest population of Jews in Italy, but the Roman ghetto is actually the smallest ghetto in Italy. It only spans 4 blocks, and it was developed in 1555 by Pope Paul IV with the same structure as that of Venice, an enclosed space with high walls that locked at night. And the Jewish people lived in this community for many years, often in really overcrowded and unsanitary conditions, and with heavy restrictions placed on their rights to education, business, trade, and other professions. It wasn't until 1870 that the walls of the Roman ghetto were torn down and the Jewish people were gradually given less restrictions, but the amount of time inside the walls helped them to develop their own community, which was rooted in tradition and a distinct Jewish identity. The Jewish ghetto in Florence was established in 1571 by the Grand Duke of Tuscany, and like other Italian ghettos, it confined the Jewish population to a specific small area with really strict restrictions on their ability to worship, and own land. They were not allowed to own any land during this time. And despite these challenges, the Jewish people in Florence remained a strong inward community and focused a lot on financial and religious scholarship in order to flourish. The ghetto was officially abolished in 1859 and is now a prominent plaza in the city, and I actually lived about 10 minutes from the plaza when I lived there. Although the Jewish people in these Italian cities faced hardship, persecution, and limitations on their own lives, their ability to connect and remain together helped them to endure these trials and emerge with thriving residential and business areas. And the Jewish ghettos can be found in many other European countries, but exist less in other parts of the world, and this is a result of Christianity being the most widely accepted religion in Europe. So countries like Italy, with Christianity as the main religions, were the ones responsible for creating these areas. And there are very few recorded Christian ghettos in Europe, except for one in Warsaw, Poland during World War II. But this ghetto was established by German authorities to hold Christians of Jewish descent, which still kind of designates it as a Jewish ghetto. And there are also records of Muslim ghettos, but these are located mostly within the Middle East, and they are labeled as disturbed areas there due to mob violence related to religious prejudice against Muslim people. So ultimately, the establishment of a confined area with restricted rights across Europe is somewhat of a unique experience to the Jewish people and testifies to their story of persecution. Today, and looking towards the future, the Jewish ghettos of Italy are still home to a large Jewish Italian population, but many of the people have kind of begun to scatter and reside throughout the city. Where the Italian ghettos were once unclean, overpopulated, and uncomfortable, they are now regularly maintained and restored in order to keep the community prosperous. These areas have become popular spots for tourists as well, where visitors can learn about the history. And there are a lot of businesses and restaurants, but many of the businesses in these areas are no longer owned by Jewish families, as commercial businesses have begun to pop up and grow in popularity, especially in Florence. It's important for the Jewish Italian population to continue educating tourists about the history of these places, and it's also a really cool experience to be able to see these places in person. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed.